She's so rotten, she wants migrants picking cotton. We present to you Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who made this shocking argument why America needs immigrants. Roll it, Alfred.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands.
This is when the wheels fall off.
You're not.
It all began with a congressional moment that quickly spiraled into a full-blown public roasting. Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett stepped into the spotlight with comments that stunned the room, claiming America needs immigrants because, as she put it, none of y'all are trying to go farm right now. The remark wasn't just controversial, it was the kind of statement that lights up social media and divides audiences in seconds. But this time, it wasn't Twitter she had to worry about. It was sitting across from two of the sharpest, most unapologetic voices in political media. On one side was a late-night firebrand with a razor-sharp tongue, the kind who can turn a policy debate into a stand-up roast without missing a beat. On the other was a calm, surgical dismantler of bad arguments, someone who doesn't just challenge a point but shreds it until there's nothing left but silence. Together, they weren't there to chat politely. They were there to strip away the polished persona and reveal what was really going on behind that confident smile. And what followed wasn't just a debate, it was a spectacle. The kind where the air feels heavier, the tension builds with each question, and you know somebody's about to get verbally wrecked. By the way, before we continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and share more intriguing stories. Now, let's continue. Because what happened next turned a heated exchange into one of the most talked about political takedowns of the year. From the very start, it became clear this wasn't going to be about facts and policy, it was going to be about performance. Jasmine Crockett wasn't just answering questions. She was playing to the cameras, loading her words with attitude, snapping back with quick one-liners, and serving side eyes like they were part of an official strategy.
That's what she does. She puts out this video of her acting in a certain way, and that's how she fundraises.
We actually did a bit of a deep dive on her after my old colleague from Fox News, Todd Starnes, posted something on X not long ago, Walter. He posted the following: Jasmine Crockett wants you to think she's from the hood, that she grew up on the streets. The exact opposite is true. She attended an exclusive day school where tuition is nearly $35,000 a year. She also attended Rhodes College, a private school where tuition is nearly $55,000 a year. She's cosplaying a gangsta. So we looked up her background. She was born in St. Louis. She's 43. Her dad was a Baptist pastor and a teacher. Her mother worked in a post office. She graduated from Mary Institute and St. Louis Country Day School, one of the most expensive private schools in the city. Indeed, the current tuition, $35,000 a year.
Every pause, every tilt of the head felt like it was designed for a viral clip rather than a serious discussion. Instead of laying out a clear plan or defending her statement with evidence, she leaned into the drama, almost like she was on a reality TV reunion special rather than a congressional setting. The energy in the room shifted. It wasn't a hearing anymore, it was a show. And while some in her corner might have found it entertaining, across the table sat two people who were not impressed. They weren't there for theatrics, they wanted substance. And the more she leaned into the sass, the more it seemed like she was dodging real answers. This was the moment where the cameras stopped just being her stage and became her trap. Every exaggerated expression, every snappy comeback, it was all being recorded, ready to be played back without the applause track she seemed to expect. It was style over substance, and the other side could smell it from a mile away. That's when the late-night comic pounced. He didn't just question her, he dismantled her with a steady stream of sarcastic one-liners, each one sharper than the last. It was like watching a roast battle in real time, but instead of a comedy club crowd, the audience was a mix of stunned officials and viewers who couldn't believe what they were seeing. He didn't raise his voice, didn't pound the table, he just kept throwing punch after punch, each dripping with mockery. Every jab cut a little deeper, exposing the weakness in her argument without needing long explanations. He treated her talking points like expired coupons, useless, outdated, and not worth the paper they were printed on. The room couldn't ignore it. Her confident smirk started to look less certain, her responses a little more rushed. For every flashy line she threw, he had a comeback that landed harder. It wasn't chaos, it was controlled demolition. And yet, the real knockout artist hadn't even spoken much yet.
Jasmine Crockett's got another hot take. No blacks and whites on a wedding cake. The Democrats' new chosen one, Jasmine Crockett, is in the news again for an old clip where she attacked Florida Rep. Byron Donalds for marrying a white woman. Roll it, Bertha.
The fact that you sitting around talking about life was better under Jim Crow, is this because you don't understand history? Or literally it's because you married a white woman and so you think that whitewashed you?
That's not very woke, is it?
Across the table, the other figure was quietly watching, letting him do the heavy lifting for the moment. But when she finally leaned in, it was clear the tone was about to shift from playful jabs to surgical precision. The roast was over, now it was time for the dissection. When she finally spoke, the entire room felt it. No smirks, no sarcastic tone, just a calm, steady voice that sliced through the noise like a scalpel. She didn't waste time on jokes or insults. Instead, she went straight for the facts, delivering them with the precision of someone who had done her homework twice over. She pulled up details from Jasmine Crockett's background details that didn't match the image Crockett had been selling to the public. The story of a tough upbringing, a struggle from the streets. She peeled it back to reveal something very different. Private schools with tuition costs in the tens of thousands, a Baptist pastor father, a stable household, and a polished education. It wasn't just about where she came from, it was about the image she was selling now. This wasn't the gritty survivor she portrayed on the mic. This was someone who had every advantage, now performing a version of herself for political branding. And the calm delivery made it sting even more. As she laid out the facts, there was no room for rebuttal. The room didn't feel like a hearing anymore. It felt like a courtroom where the verdict was already written. And with each fact she dropped, Crockett's confident persona cracked just a little more, the performance energy draining out with every exposed inconsistency. Then came the part that really had people talking, the direct contrast between Jasmine's carefully crafted from the hood image and the reality of her privileged background. The audience wasn't just hearing about her past, they were seeing the gap between who she really was and who she pretended to be on the political stage. It was the kind of reveal that doesn't just embarrass a politician, it shakes their entire brand. The picture painted by her critics was clear. This wasn't authenticity, it was cosplay. Designer blazers swapped in for street cred, polished debate skills wrapped in a borrowed accent. It was all part of a performance, right down to the exaggerated expressions she threw at every camera in sight. The more they pulled at the thread, the more the entire act seemed to unravel. This wasn't a slip of the tongue or a misunderstood comment, it was a pattern. A deliberate choice to lean into an identity that would play well in certain circles, even if it didn't match her real history. And the worst part? It didn't feel like the room was turning in her favor. Every time a new fact came out, you could sense the energy shift just a little more against her. The applause lines she was used to weren't landing here. This wasn't social media where her followers could drown out criticism. This was live, and the truth was getting louder. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more uncomfortable, they turned their focus to her political style itself. They painted her as the perfect example of a social media politician, someone who treats every appearance like a chance to go viral, rather than a moment to make real change.
Of leftist hypocrisy and cluelessness. Jasmine Crockett is a rising star amongst the far-left progressives in this country. She's a representative from Houston, Texas, of all places, which makes no sense because she seems to be far too left for Houston, but apparently not because they elected her. It must be like, Orange County in California being like the one outlier in an otherwise uniformly state, like all red with the one blue, all blue with the one red. Okay, so Jasmine Crockett got up at a Los Angeles dinner this past Saturday, and it was hosted by, this is perfect.
They described her brand as all flash, no substance. Quick facial expressions meant to spark GIFs. Snappy one-liners for the clip reels. Hashtags, sound bites, and perfectly timed eye rolls replacing actual policy discussions. It was influencer culture dressed up in congressional attire. Instead of passing meaningful legislation, she was accused of chasing moments that would trend for a day but do nothing for the people she was elected to represent. In their eyes, her platform wasn't built on results, it was built on reactions, and reactions fade fast. That comparison cut deep because it stripped away any claim of seriousness. If you're all performance and no policy, then what's left when the cameras turn off? The answer hung in the air, unspoken, but everyone knew it. Without the showmanship, there was nothing holding her presence together. And in a room where real power depends on what you can deliver, that emptiness spoke louder than any headline. Then came the resurfaced clip that lit the fire even higher, an old moment where Jasmine Crockett went after Florida Representative Byron Donalds for marrying a white woman.
Is she making any point there?
Like this makes me wish my mom made different father choices.
She accused him of being whitewashed and disconnected from history, all because of his marriage. That line alone was enough to spark outrage, but here, in the middle of an already tense takedown, it became fuel for the fire. They replayed the clip, letting the words speak for themselves, and the reaction in the room said it all. This wasn't framed as a one-off misstep, it was held up as proof of a bigger pattern. They called it hypocritical, pointing out how Crockett often speaks about inclusivity and fighting discrimination, yet here she was using someone's personal relationship as an insult. The contradiction was too big to ignore. The late-night comic pounced on it, twisting the knife with a smirk and a few well-timed lines, while the calm, precise dismantler sat back, letting the audience connect the dots. They didn't even need to say much, the hypocrisy was obvious, and it stuck. By now, the performance energy Crockett walked in with was gone. She wasn't in control of the narrative anymore. The clips, the facts, the contradictions, they were all stacking up, piece by piece, into something she couldn't simply laugh or sass her way out of. From there, the focus shifted to what she had actually accomplished in office, and the picture painted wasn't flattering. They pointed out that for all the fiery speeches and viral moments, her legislative record was nearly empty. No major bills with her name on them, no significant reforms she had led, nothing that could be called a landmark achievement. It wasn't just about the lack of results, it was the way she seemed to prioritize the stage over the work. Hearings became her personal platform for sound bites. Press conferences felt more like photo shoots than serious policy discussions. And when the cameras weren't around, there was little evidence of the grind that real governing requires. The contrast with her opponents in that room was striking. While they came armed with timelines, facts, and detailed critiques, she came armed with expressions and catchphrases. The problem was, those might earn likes and retweets, but they don't move legislation forward. In a place where every vote and every bill matters, that gap between style and substance is deadly for credibility. And here, with the spotlight on her, it was impossible to hide. The more they talked, the clearer it became. This wasn't a debate she was losing. This was a resume review, and the results weren't good. Then they turned to her speaking style, and that's when the room really started to buzz. They claimed her voice, tone, and even accent had changed dramatically over just 3 years. Old clips showed her speaking in a polished, measured way, clear, professional, and without the exaggerated slang or drawn-out phrases she uses now. The suggestion was blunt. This wasn't a natural shift, it was an act, a crafted persona designed to fit a certain image. To them, it was like watching a character from a TV show, one that got rewritten halfway through the season to attract a new audience. They didn't just say it. They backed it up by describing exactly how her delivery had changed. From, "I'm really excited to get to work for the American people," to, "what we not gonna do is stand around while they pull this bull," the difference was night and day. And once they pointed it out, it was hard not to hear it. The implication hung in the air: if even your way of speaking is part of a performance, how much of what you're selling is real? That kind of question doesn't just stick with a political opponent, it sticks with voters. And in that room, it made every other criticism hit harder, because now even her voice sounded like part of the show. By now, the takedown had momentum, and they were ready to drive it home. They framed her as someone more obsessed with clout than governance, someone who saw politics as a stage for influencer-style activism. Every dramatic pause, every glare into the camera, every well-rehearsed hand gesture was portrayed as part of a branding strategy, not genuine leadership. They compared her presence to microwaving a frozen dinner and calling it homemade, all noise, no flavor, and leaving everyone hungry for something real. It wasn't just a clever line, it summed up their entire case against her. She wasn't building coalitions or passing laws, she was building a highlight reel. And in their eyes, that was the ultimate problem. Because in Congress, the spotlight doesn't last forever. When the buzz fades, what's left is your track record. And hers, they argued, was paper thin. Her opponents didn't need to yell or throw insults at this stage. They just let the facts and the patterns speak for themselves. The audience could see the difference between those who came prepared to debate and those who came prepared to perform. And here, performance wasn't enough to save her. The cracks in her image were no longer just visible, they were impossible to ignore. Then came one of the most telling moments of the entire exchange. She tried to land a big, dramatic line, the kind of "for the people" statement that would usually get applause in her circles. But instead of cheers, the room met it with silence. Across from her, the late-night comic just smirked and let the pause linger, almost daring her to fill it. No rebuttal, no joke, just that heavy, loaded silence that made her words feel even weaker. It was the kind of moment you can't edit away, the kind that lives forever in the replay. Meanwhile, the calm, collected dismantler didn't even shift in her seat. No raised eyebrow, no sigh, just stillness. And that stillness was louder than anything Crockett had said. It wasn't anger, it wasn't outrage, it was the quiet confidence of someone who knew the argument had already collapsed. From there, they went in on how she treats every hearing like an audition for a trending moments reel, turning serious discussions into entertainment. They pointed out how every gesture and reaction seemed rehearsed for social media, while the actual content of her arguments stayed paper thin. It was no longer about one bad comment or one bad day. This was about a pattern, one that had been building for a while and was now being torn apart in front of everyone watching.